back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys! So I'm here today to review a science fiction book that I recently read, and that is this one, The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. I really enjoyed this. It was my second John Wyndham book, and I'm really happy to have discovered him. And I actually did this as a buddy read with one of my friends called Maya. I'll put a link to her BookTube channel down below, so if you want to go check her out, please do. She's great, and we had a lovely time buddy reading this as well, because it's such an interesting concept and story. So this is set in a kind of dystopian world. It does have similarities to our world. For example, some of the places are called like Zealand, kind of based off of New Zealand, and there are places that are definitely rooted in our history and our world. So it's kind of a dystopian, and we're following a group of people who live in a world that is really religiously strict. It's kind of almost a religious cult. Our main character is called David, and his father and all the people around them are farmers. They live in this part of the world that is actually not too bad for growing crops, but there are lots of areas surrounding their part of the world that are blighted and where crops will constantly fail or mutate or become deviant. And deviations with a capital D is something that's really, really bad in this world. The people that David is surrounded by believe that if something is deviant or different from what they expect it to be, what they know it should be, then it must be something that is cursing them. It must be something bad and evil. It can't possibly be something okay and nice and just different. It can't be good, basically. So anyone who has a disability, anything that grows with a mutation, anything different is bad. And they believe this completely, thoroughly, no exceptions. So David grows up in this very strict society. But whilst he is out one day, he meets a young girl, and it turns out that this young girl seems perfectly normal, acts perfectly normal, but she happens to have 6 toes. And this is the start of David questioning the society around him and trying to understand just why everyone believes this when he's met someone who seems perfectly normal, but actually, if anyone knew that she existed, there would be trouble. So we follow him, and we also follow a group of other children who for some reason have a deviation, and David does too. Their deviation is the ability to communicate with each other through telekinesis. Now the adults of the village, they don't understand or know about this because of course why would they? They don't have it, they don't know about it, it's not a physical difference that they can see, but it turns out later on that of course they're going to get discovered somehow and they have to make a break for it. And the story goes on from there. So these are the kind of questions and topics that John Wyndham is dealing with in this book. Disability and deformity, and the way that mutations are viewed by people who don't understand or don't want to understand what they might mean and how different they can be. So it's quite interesting to see how John Wyndham dives into this topic of disability and how he really plays with the idea that people are very fearful of things they don't understand or don't know or don't get, and yet there is often nothing wrong with those things. It's usually just a case of them being ignorant or not wanting to learn. And I really like the themes that he tackles. I also think that John Wyndham has a way of writing that is very cosy, largely based in the sort of 50s and 60s era, where everything is quite quaint, and it feels very much like you're going back in time when you read one of these books. Even though it's a sci-fi book, it doesn't feel like it's futuristic because it's never quite set in space or anything. It's more about an idea and a concept that could be science fiction, could be reality to an extent. Maybe there are people who have this sort of telekinesis, and there certainly are people with deformities and differences that the people in this world would look down upon. So it's really interesting to see how just 50, 60 years ago things were very different from how they are now, and things are becoming more acceptable nowadays and were less acceptable back then. And it's intriguing to sort of follow David's journey as he uncovers things about himself. He kind of decides whether he thinks he is acceptable. Does he accept himself for the differences he has? Does he tell people? It's really great to look at his story and find something in him to connect with. And I feel like John Wyndham's characters are very easy to connect with because They're frequently young and they're frequently characters who have a real interesting backstory, have some good motivations and just want to kind of be understood and make their way in the world, and for some reason there are sort of opposing threats coming in and pressing on them that are making them go through things they don't want to, and I really think he does a good job of dealing with it in this book. It certainly felt like this one wasn't as dated as Day of the Triffids in terms of sexism, which is great. So I certainly feel like this is a more up-to-date story and I enjoyed it a bit more because of that. But I really, really liked both of the books I've read by him, so I've actually picked up 2 more of his books to read very soon, and I'll definitely be reviewing them too. But for now, this is a really easy science fiction. If you want to try sci-fi but you're a bit intimidated, I'd say this is a great start point. And if you just haven't tried out John Wyndham before, I'd give him a go and see what you think. So I ended up giving this a really strong 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I think it's got a really good story, very complete, very solid standalone, and it's one that I definitely recommend. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of John Wyndham's works, which one is your favourite, or which one are you planning to pick up next, and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.